Hello and welcome to another instance of my messy desk. Yes, I don't have a tripod, and yes, my desk is a mess, but I like my desk. Got ourselves a Daewoo FRS U20DCB refrigerator. That one right there. I took a photo of it. This is our actual home fridge, fridge freezer. It's American style where it's got a freezer one side and a fridge the other. It's actually died before actually, and I managed to repair it. It was just a bad solder joint on a diode, and I also repaired a joint just here because it looked a bit iffy. So what's happened is the power supply has died. I've tracked it down to that. It's doing the usual things that happens when a power supply dies, where it's trying to get power but it's not getting enough power. The little speaker that's on it is just ticking every so often, tick, 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 like that, making a funny ticky noise. I thought to myself, that sounds like it's got low power, so obviously you go through the whole motion of fuses, which you know it's not going to be a fuse, but went through it, thought, well, fuse, try that first, easy stuff first. But no, it's it's definitely the power supply board that has died. Power supply board on these are quite weird. One thing to do if you're doing this yourself, when you get the board out, make sure you pull this plug off first. This is your main power input. The white wire on this plug here is your main AC input from the mains, and then the rest of them compressors and whatnot. I think it does tell you them. But yeah, unplug that one first. Unplug the ones around your side, flip it over, and get yourself a screwdriver, and be careful with this because it will go off with a bit of a crack, and it will spark. But get yourself a screwdriver, like I said, screwdriver, hold it by the plastic handle, make sure it's not a metal handle, by a plastic handle, and just touch it across these two pins just here. It'll go crack, and you'll get a spark come out of it. Don't worry, it's not going to kill you if you do it this way. It just makes it safe so you can touch it, because this little thing here is a capacitor. This little guy just here looks a lot like a battery, and that's pretty much what it does. It holds a charge. These little ones here won't really hurt you because they're not a high enough value, but that one that will give you a good shock, and it will probably throw you across the room. There is 240 volts stored in that, which isn't nice. That would hurt if it hit you. So yeah, if you touch it across there, you can now touch that both, across there, and it won't hurt you. But like I say, you've got to make sure that you put your screwdriver across that and it makes a cracking sound. If it doesn't make that noise, and you've definitely got yourself a screwdriver with metal, try a different screwdriver if it doesn't work, and you touch it across the two and it doesn't do a crack sound, then I probably guarantee to you that the fault isn't with this board, because that should always make that sound. Or your fault is your fuse popped just here. And keep in mind that a fuse blows for a reason. It doesn't blow because it wants to, it blows because something else has gone wrong. So it could be the compressor's drawing too much power or something. Sometimes happens, I think, when you get low refrigerant. I don't know, I'm not a HVAC technician. I want to be, but I'm not. Anyway, getting on with this. The actual fault. Right. So, the power supply has died. It's died a death. We don't know what's happened to it. Something in here has failed. There's a lot of scorching in here. There's diodes that are getting a bit hot, and there's all sorts of stuff. So I've come up with the idea of doing away with that power supply and instead injecting power into it manually. And to do that, you can see we've got the, right in the glare there, sorry, you can see we've got the two capacitors just here. It nicely tells you which is positive, so this line here is positive, that is also positive. Just because the plus is on that track there does not mean it's positive. You read the positive and negative of a capacitor, because there is a positive and negative on a capacitor. On a capacitor, the white line down the capacitor denotes it's the negative side of the capacitor. Now, even this one's got one, look. It's even got the negative symbol in there, telling you it's the negative side of the capacitor. So the negative side points downwards. So we know that the two pins that are pointing towards this thing, downwards, is negative. So if we flip that over, we can see that these two pins here, that pin and that pin, is both negative. Now to inject power into this manually, doing away with all this, you can be very naughty. I do wish I had a little tripod. You can be very naughty, and you can get yourself... I've got... Oh, I've not even got a bench power supply. I've got a little transformer which produces 6 amps, which I like to sleep with a fan on at night time. I know, I'm weird. And this fan needs to be powered. It's only a computer case fan. This fan is powered from from this power supply, 12 volts at 6 amps. It's a bit overrated for it, but it doesn't matter. It'll last longer, won't it? Because it's not got as much load on it. So what you do to get this thing to work is you find your positive, which in this case is this pin here, and we're just going to clip it onto this thing just here because it's just sticking up out of that trace. Can you see that? Yes, you can. And if I touch this onto the negative, this is 12 volts going through here, we should hear the thing power up. There we go. So that is powered up now, and I've just broke the connection. So that tells me that the power supply itself's died because the rest of the circuitry is working fine. So if you get in this fault, you can get yourself a little plug-in-the-wall transformer. You can solder a wire onto one of these capacitors outlets or anything else on this trace just here as the positive, and then for the negative you can either scrape some of this varnish from off this circuit board and solder directly to this, or solder to any one of the pins, including the thingy, the pin for the capacitor, as the negative, and that should power your fridge back up again. But what I'm going to do to make the power supply a little easier, I am going to cut this trace just here, so that the power supply isn't trying to inject power into this part of the board. It can take a break now. It's done its toil in life. It can. I'm just going to cut this little trace here and make a physical connection break. So the power supply is no longer providing power to the 12 volt side of this circuit board. Just because I don't want anything to backfeed into this power supply and do any damage, basically. You can, as of this video, which is, what is the date today? It's the 2nd of the 3rd, 2023, so second day, that's the 3rd month, 2023. So as of now, you can still get these circuit boards, and they're still available on AliExpress, which is a Chinese wholesaling website, which you can buy them singularly. And you can buy these for, I think it was about £100, British pound sterling, the model number. If you're going to search for this board, you want to search for that model number just there. Let me zoom in on that one. The middle number just there, the one where it says S/N serial number. 30143 Delta or D 505, and that number underneath that label is number 1. Now I was looking at actually buying one of these, but I thought, well, let's see if I can power it manually just for now. But I am going to order one of these anyway, just to keep a spare. For 100 quid, it's definitely worth it, I think. It's a bloody good fridge. So I'm going to get one of these as well, keep it as spare, but we're going to keep it running on my bodged up power supply as long as possible. So it's the next day. Let's see what's happened with the fridge. Well, it's all working. Show the label. That's good. Oh yeah, that's looking pretty good, that. Even the one in the doorway is saying it's pretty good. And we've got one in the freezer too. Where is it? Right there. That one's doing really good. Excellent. I'll show you what I did on top of the fridge. Okay, so this is the big brains of the fridge. Now what I did, I put this power brick in here. That is a 12 volt at 6 amps power brick. And that power brick now drives, it's literally connected in parallel, so both connections to these capacitors just here. These capacitors here, oh by the way, try not to touch this thing when it's plugged in, which this is. And if you are a bit weary as to how it all goes, this is the main live connector. That white wire there, that's the main live input from the plug socket. So if you disconnect that, leave it out the way, the whole of this will be dead apart from that capacitor there, which will be charged. I have gone through this and I've actually cut the trace, so this power supply is completely dead now. It's completely isolated, completely cut off from the rest of it. I've kept the fuse, so the fuse has still got power going through it, but the fuse drives this power brick now. The main power for the power brick goes around here and it just gets dropped in here from under the circuit board, soldered directly to the board, and it comes up and goes around. If I could do my cabling a bit more neat, actually tuck them all in. You gotta be careful, these are 240 volt cables by the way, so tuck them all down out the way. I didn't do that before, so the lid didn't close properly. I've actually got a bit of a cold today, which is nice, lovely. But yes, there's cat hairs in there. Yeah, so I connected this power brick directly up to these two capacitors. This is all low voltage. Anything past this white line here that goes around here, it's all low voltage. So I connected this power brick up to these two capacitors, the negative to the negative on both of them, and the positive to the positive on both of them, connected them together in parallel. Just literally bridged across, connected positive positive, and just jumped across to the next one. So this whole fridge is being ran off this one power brick, which isn't even getting warm, which is nice. Yeah, it just works great. There was a bit of a flip-flop where it took a while to cool down, but I think it's because the fans inside do not spin at as high a speed. It tells me this power brick probably isn't the right voltage for this fridge, but it's working good enough, so that doesn't really matter. The way how I figured out the voltages was looking at the values of the capacitors and also the output to one of these outputs, because this gives out two outputs, this power supply. One of the outputs goes into one capacitor, the other one goes into the other capacitor, one common ground, and it goes up into here, around here somewhere under the if you follow the traces on the board, the tracks on the board, and it goes into this little thing here, which is a Mitsubishi motor driver. And I googled what power rating that Mitsubishi motor driver was, and it can take anywhere from something like 10 volts all the way up to 20 volts. So I thought, 12 volts will do the job. But it's got me thinking that this is actually a 19 volt fridge, or 18 volts maybe. I don't know what voltage the power supply gives that because it's dead, but the power brick is doing the job. It's only a cheap power brick, so if it ever fails I will just cut this out and put another one in. Nice and easy. Excellent stuff. So that's it. That is the fridge all repaired. But whatever, I saved... there you go, let's just kick the compressor off. Nice. I've saved whatever the cost it is to buy one of these fridges. Although I must admit, I went on to AliExpress and I did buy one of these boards, just in case. this should fail, but it looks like it's working really well. I may just leave all this up here and replace the board when it fails again. Brilliant stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Hope this fixes your fridge. Peace out.